Forward to this computer. Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Fort Worth Astronomical Society Astrophotography Special Interest Group meeting for June 6, 2026. If you've by chance just stumbled onto this YouTube channel, we are an astronomy club that was started in approximately 1940 by Mary Noble, a public school teacher. And since then, we have grown to become one of the largest astronomy clubs in the United States with over 200 members. And we're also one of the oldest. At the time we were founded, it was before Apollo, before Sputnik, and Neil Armstrong was only 19 years old at that time. But we've grown to be a substantial club, and you're going to want to stay with us because today we've got a very special speaker, Mr. Frank Marek, who's the genius behind the Seti Astro suite of astronomy processing products that seem to be disrupting the field of software for processing. A lot of the competitive products like PixInsight cost about $325 a year approximately. Photoshop isn't much less. It's somewhere around $260 depending on whether or not you pay it annually or monthly. So his product, which is free, by the way, is really disrupting this market. And we had him on the APSIG group about a year ago. And at that point, he had a handful of wonderful products that we all loved, and many of us were already using. And I specifically remember asking Frank, gee, Frank, what do you have in store for us over the next year? And Frank didn't give us any hint of what to expect. And what we have now seen is a whole suite of products that challenges PixInsight in just about every way. So, without further ado, let's get started right now. Go ahead, Frank.
All right. Hey everyone. Yeah, well, at the time, I didn't know what was going to happen. It just kind of grew its own legs and took off. And I'm not even sure what all was in PixInsight scripts that I had at the time back then either with you guys. But let me share my screen. Let's see. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
All right. Yeah, just really quick. If you don't know me, I'm Frank Marek. I guess also known as Seti Astro on YouTube and around. I was a former Navy nuclear electrician in the U.S. Navy. I was a submarine guy. Leaving there, I've been in the industrial space, repairing really large electric motors and generators and stuff like that, and always had a passion for science and math. I'm a big nerd. I got a pi earring in right now, and just always love that kind of stuff. And been doing astrophotography pretty much since I got out of the submarine. So like 15 years, and started out my YouTube channel really just to um, share some of the objects I was taking pictures of because I think my family was bored of me showing my pictures to them. So I was just doing that then, and it kind of grew into a little bit of a PixInsight tutorial channel, and I started making scripts in PixInsight, and then request after request came in to make them standalone for everybody. And it was then at that point, once I started making them standalone, that it kind of, I don't know, spiraled out of control, and here we are now. So not really sure, Stephen, how much you want me to cover um, PixInsight stuff, or if you want me to jump kind of further down and
Well, I presented this to the membership basically as an alternative to PixInsight. So maybe you could cover the features where PixInsight does it, and you also have now come up with a similar process.
Yeah. All right. So I guess kind of first off, if you already have PixInsight, should I get Seti Astro Suite Pro as well? And I'm saying yes. To your point, it's free. Why not? Um, you might as well get it. But specifically, it has some really nice things that PixInsight doesn't. Um, the blink comparator in Seti Astro Suite Pro has a great graphical culling method in there. Um, with stacking, I've implemented Image which is a multi-frame deconvolution, which that paper went out, I don't know, a couple months ago, and I quickly incorporated that into Seti Suite Pro. I have my own wave scale HDR and dark enhancement, which are very similar to like HDR multi-scale transform, um, except it works a lot better. I also have Glimmer, which is an isophoto modeler for galaxies. If you already use What's in My Image and PixInsight, the one in Seti Suite Pro is way better just because I can utilize a lot more libraries and things like that within Python where you can't do that in PixInsight. There's also I have like an exoplanet hunter and transient detector. There's live stacking. If you're familiar with Photoshop, I have layers. You can utilize layers within Seti Suite Pro. And I know that's been a request for decades now in PixInsight. It seems that everybody wants layers, and it's just never kind of happened. Um, so just even kind of looking at some of these, like this is my blink comparator, and you could show the metrics, and it's going to give you all this stuff off to the side here, and then you could just move these red bars around, flag your bad images. You could move them directly from the blink comparator. You could delete them outright from the blink comparator. So a lot of those things where in PixInsight you find a bad frame and then you gotta either jot it down or take care of it at that time. You could do that all kind of within there. I mentioned Image I did make my own white paper for this with implementation and how to go about doing it in kind of the amateur space here. So that's available. If anybody really wants to tackle implementing your own Image process, I got that. That'll help you get up and running. But the crazy thing with this is, for I don't know, it's probably 25 years we've been stacking pretty much the exact same way. It's just it's all the pixels together, and you're pretty much averaging them. Yes, there's been improvements on rejection algorithms to reject outliers, but in the end, that's really what it's doing. Drizzling is a little bit different beast. That's you're kind of just dripping information onto a finer grid and building your image up that way. And those were kind of the only methods available at all for a long time. In the professional space, they've had multi-frame deconvolution for a number of years. And it is a completely different way of stacking your image where you take a seed image, usually just a median of the whole stack, and then you're blurring all your frames, and it's kind of a guess and check as to how to de-blur that image based on the seed image. And it's this big multiplicative update system that just churns in the background to do that. So it is really computationally expensive. That's probably why amateurs never got their hands on it. It was always universities and professional observatories that had access to big computers, mainframes, and a bunch of GPUs and stuff. But now our computers at our house are plenty powerful enough to do this kind of thing. So I've implemented that as well. And I guess one of the two things I kind of got with that, yes, the results are a little sharper than traditional stacking. They're a little bit noisier, but that's kind of to be expected with a slightly sharper image. And I tell people, don't worry about the noise so much. Like, we have so many ways of dealing with noise right now. There's a bunch of immaculate denoising tools out there for us. That's not the issue. What the great thing is out the gate you're getting a slightly sharper, better image, and it's so early. This is baby steps with this method of stacking, and a bunch of smart people are going to be able to do so much more with this thing. This is in its crawling infancy, and it's already slightly better in most cases than traditional stacking, which is just crazy. Some of the other nice things, like I mentioned, in what's in my image, is you can do like 3D plotting of all your stuff. So not only is it pulling down the Simbad data to show you what all the cool stuff in your image is, but I have it also pull down parallax if there's stellar measurements in there from the Gaia catalog, and then any red shifts it finds for everything else. And with that, you could just plot how all this stuff is out in 3D space, and we could be able to move it around. We can get into that too. The other one is a HR diagram. I've had this in Seti Astro Suite for a number of months now, an HR diagram, and then it was last month, maybe 2 months ago, when Mike Cranfield had implemented his own HR diagram in PixInsight. There's a lot of niceties in mine that you're not going to be able to find in that particular script as well. And then, like I said, I had my own wave scale HDR and dark enhancement versus like PixInsight's HDR multi-scale transform and stuff. And then one of the other just kind of fun ones is an exoplanet transit detector, where if anybody's familiar with having to use something like exotic or whatever, where you're picking your star and then you got to choose maybe a couple other ensemble stars to do the curves with. It's a little bit tedious. You're usually only checking one star at a time. So I completely automated it. It checks all your stars, builds an ensemble stars for every single star in there, measures them all, and allows you to just go around and look at the curves from all your stars. And the vast majority of the time, you're probably just going to find variable stars, but that's fine. That's cool stuff too. Like this particular star here, I thought it had a very interesting shape to it. And then right from this tool, you could open up test light curves. It'll pull down data from the test archive for that particular star, and you could just see the kind of curves that Tess was able to record on that same star in the field. And where I noticed here is the star kind of flaring right here has a very similar kind of shape to what this was seeing at the time as well. So, just something to kind of corroborate what you're seeing in your own data, that you're able to pull down professional data of the same stuff. And with that, I have a whole group on my Discord now as well, where all they do is hunt exoplanets. They have a number of papers already written, multiple candidates identified. Obviously, it takes professional telescopes to confirm an exoplanet, so they're all candidate exoplanets right now. But the fact that you could just do this stuff from your backyard with your own, telescope is crazy, and something professionals wouldn't have thought would have been possible, 10, 15 years ago. That, you're just out in the backyard with, 120 millimeter refractor, or, a 6-inch newt or something, and you're able to contribute finding these kind of things. So those are kind of some of the reasons why not get Seti Astro Suite Pro, even if you have PixInsight, just so you could use some of this other stuff. It's also fully compatible with XISF. So a lot of the time when I'm processing, and I'm not too proud to say it, I'll have PixInsight open on one monitor, Seti Astro Suite Pro open on another monitor. And since, one could read XISF just fine, it's easy to save out a PixInsight, open it up in Seti Astro Suite Pro, fiddle with some of the tools I have already built in there, could just throw it right back into PixInsight. It makes it easy to go back and forth between the two. So yeah, I didn't know exactly what you wanted, but this is Seti S Suite Pro in its current form. It's a fully windowized tool like you would find in PixInsight. When you first open it up, there's probably going to be like a lot of panels open. I have a whole bunch of different things around here. So there's a bunch of panels that you could have open where it's going to tell you what files you have open, header data. The command search is really good when you're just getting started. You're probably not going to know what all these icons mean yet, but I have a dedicated command search where you could just start typing in, I don't know, stretch, and it's going to give you all of them: hyperbolic stretch, star stretch, statistical stretch. Somebody imported a Verilux stretch in my scripts, right? So it'll just search for all that stuff. Or I don't know, you're just having a hard time finding a save as, or save the project. Having a command search is really, really helpful. And the other really nice thing is all these panels, you can kind of just move wherever you want, or even have them on other monitors, which is really handy when you're, just trying to organize your workspace. You may not want all this extra information open, right? But it's there, and you could find it that way. Um, and besides that, it's kind of laid out fairly. I don't know. I put a little thought into it. It's not, um, it's kind of laid out how you would expect. It's like a file, edit is just undo, redo functions. This is all kind of your standard processes in, what you would probably call a process in PixInsight. Um, like background neutralization, convolution, deconvolution, curves, various stretching, your histogram, linear fit, pixel math, luminance recombination, all these kind of things are in there. And then I have a bunch of smart tools. These are pretty much everything that's going to have a neural net involved. So right now I have aberration correction. It's Ricardo Alhiri's aberration correction. So it's like um, correct only in Blur Exterminator. Then I have my own suite of cosmic clarity, which is sharpen, denoise, and upscaling. And the sharpening is, it's another neural net sharpener. It could do stars only, or non-stellar, or a combination of the both. It utilizes the PSF it finds in a particular chunk when it's doing the sharpening to um, use the correct model of the neural net when it's doing that. I also have Cosmic Clarity satellite trail removal. This is fairly unique. You could set it up to just monitor an input folder, and as images come in, it's going to run them through Cosmic Clarity satellite remover, and if it detects a satellite trail in there, it just blacks it out. You'll have a black line through your image um, with pixel values of 0. And the reason I did it that way is stacking programs will ignore those pixel values then. So you could still have your full image. You don't need to toss it away. Like sometimes, some big satellite trails going through your image, you just might want to call them because of it. You don't need to do that. It'll just put a black line of 0 pixel values in there, and you'll be able to utilize it still for stacking. You can still just like remove satellite trails on a single image or whatever, but that's what I had set it up for. So it can monitor like your folder as you're acquiring data from your telescope throughout the night. As your images are coming in, it could just be removing satellite trails as it finds them. So you're kind of just ready for stacking later. Also in here is Graxpert stuff, gradient or denoise, since that's a neural net as well. And then for remove stars, StarNet or my own Dark Star. I would say I'm not gonna lie, StarNet is 9 times out of 10 the better option, but it's nice to have both there. Sometimes Dark Star does do a better job, and it's always worth trying it out if StarNet's giving you some funky results, or vice versa. So that's why I put all those under smart tools. That's kind of all your neural net kind of things. And then I have another group that are just tools. Now, these are more complicated things than like a process, which would be, I don't know, SCNR or extract your luminance. These probably have a whole nother pane. You're going to use multiple images with it. So like perfect palette picker, or I have a whole selective color correction, frequency separation, multi-scale decomposition. Like these are things that are going to be more involved. It's its own kind of tool that you could use with it. Blink comparators in here as well. I have a whole suite of just normal geometry stuff, right? Invert, flip, rotate, rescale. Those are pretty common and standard. A whole slug of things I just put under star stuff. This is going to be your exoplanet detector, stacking, live stacking, diffraction spikes, star alignment. An RGB alignment will take your 3-channel image and align the channel separately to the stars, because sometimes you get dispersion or fringing where maybe the blue channel is distorted slightly differently than the red, right? You'll see that fringing on stars. So that'll take care of that. Plate solver, mosaic, all those kind of things are in here. If it's involving stars, I shoved it in here. Masks are really easy to do in Seti Astro Suite Pro, so we could definitely cover that, where a particular paid piece of software, it's sometimes difficult to get a mask you want. Then I also have what's in my sky and what's in my image. What's in my image is the same, or is kind of the upgraded version of the one in PixInsight. What's in my sky is nice. All you do is put in your Latin long, the date you want to observe. So what do we got? The I don't know, let's say the 10th or whatever. The time is the time you would like your object to transit. So, depending on your setup, your backyard, whatever, maybe you want it transiting at 10 in the evening or 2 in the morning, or whatever the case may be. You put in your time zone. I have a bunch of different catalogs in here. So maybe you just want the NGC and the Messier catalog or something. You can click calculate, and it's going to go through that whole list and now organize them for you. Minutes to transit closest to. It has a lunar phase in there. You're also going to get things like how many degrees away from the moon it is, if it's an alternate name, what type of object it is, if it has magnitude and size information. You can also just double click any of these things, and it's going to open up Astrobin for you for that object, so you could see what other people have taken of that object. And I found it's a really nice way of finding obscure objects, especially if you're just in like the NGC or the IC catalog. Not a lot of people take images of these things, and some of them you'll find only have a handful of images, and it's usually because it just happened to be in a wider field image of that region. So that may be an option for you to try to find maybe something a little more obscure, or help you, just hunt what you're looking for with that.
That is a really cool feature, by the way. That wasn't one I was aware of. I'm definitely going to be using that.
Oh yeah. And then like on the PNG catalog at the time, I went on the planetary nebula.net, I think is the French website where the owners of that have their catalog.
Right.
And I pulled in all that stuff that they had there. So it'll have a lot of candidate objects that are in here and stuff too. And yeah, if you're going to hunt for some obscure stuff, then you might want to go down the path of trying to find some image some of these things. I recently did scripts, so it's fully scriptable. I have some resources in here. I have some user scripts already on a GitHub repository. I have a forum discussion channel for scripts. I put a link in there for that. I have a set of sample scripts, so you can click create sample scripts, and it's going to give you some sample scripts. And then if you open the script editor itself, I have a whole command help here where it's just full of stuff. How to actually do scripting within Seti Astro Suite Pro. I'm still adding stuff to scripts to make it easier to do everything. Technically, you could do everything from a script in Seti Astro Suite Pro and call anything within the program. But unless you know how it's coded, it'd be very difficult. So I had to make a whole bunch of like APIs to help people to just run commands like, hey, just run statistical stretch with these targets, and it's linked, right? So I'm still adding APIs to help ease creating scripts in there. But that has not stopped a whole bunch of smart people from making a bunch of scripts already. Like I said, a lot of these are already from people on my Discord. They've already imported all the serial scripts over to it. Like I said, Verilux Stretch, the one guy did that one. Starfield quality analyzers, spectral line analyzers, like they're really starting to go for it for scripting. This is a really nice one, even if you have Pixins and you only get Seti Astro Suite Pro for this. Under header mods and miscellaneous, I have an Astrobin exporter and a batch fits header modifier. So the Astrobin exporter is really nice. You can either
I've been
select a
using that
folder
one. That's one of my favorite tools. I mean, you have so many good ones, but I'm really familiar with that one.
yeah, so I think everybody that's uses Astrobin is familiar with having to put in their acquisition data. And if you have a lot of multiple nights and you're using a lot of frames, and a lot of the time, I know I'm lazy and I'll just cheat and say it was X number of exposure minutes or whatever the case may be. This, you could just add your lights in. Sure, I don't even know what I have here right now. I'll just add all my my tadpole exposures. I haven't taken many of this yet. It's going to give you a little tree box here of your different filters, different exposure times. It's going to put all the data in here. It has all your information. You can manage your filters from here. Astrobin has a unique filter ID for all the different filters in there. I actually, page by page, took all the numbers and made a list here. So you can search the offline database here, or if you click the question mark, it'll take you straight to Astrobin's website, so you can search for your filter ID there. So it's two different options, but it's going to organize all that for you. The beauty is down here at the bottom, you can just click copy this, and this is the thing you paste into Astrobin. It's going to be all your acquisition detailed by night, by exposure, by filter, with temperatures and all that stuff in there properly for you. And you didn't have to do anything. You literally just, like I did, I just added all my lights, right? And it does all the work, and you just copy this. So that's a big help. Again, you may be a dyed in the wool PixInsight user, but you might as well dump all your lights in here for exporting to Astrobin. And then the other one that really is helpful is a fits header modifier. You may not need to use it very often, but if you ever have had a situation where you had to modify something in your fits header, it was kind of a real big pain in the butt before. So this isn't actually a good. Here, let me pull up something with a lot more fits data in it. Here. So this has all the FITS header data right from it. You can just type in whatever the keyword was, like, I don't know, your filter was wrong or it's missing filter, right? And you needed to add filter information. And this was, I don't know, a UV IR filter or whatever the case may be. You could just do that and it's going to add your filter in there for you. Or if you have a bunch of Celestron Origin famously has the wrong Bayer pattern in their FITS header, and they have not corrected it yet. So all the Celestron Origin people need a way to batch modify all their headers if they want to use any other software besides the built-in software into the Celestron Origin. And so you could do a batch modify. You could choose all your fit files in one go. You could type in your keyword, what the value should be, click run, and it's just going to update all the FITS headers for you. And I know you don't need that very often, but when you do, it is so handy to have something like this. It's really nice to do that. I got a whole bunch of other stuff in here too. Like batch renaming stuff is pretty good as well. That's when you got a bunch of things. So you could have a source folder. You could scan the whole folder. It's going to give you all the different FITS keywords it finds in there. And then you could actually build a name for all those different files, right? So it's just a batch file renamer if you ever need something like that. It's completely regex editable. So you can go in there and change all these around. You could add whatever headers, whatever keywords from the FITS header up into your file names, and then just run it. It'll change all your file names for you however you want, right? So that's nice too. I've had to batch file rename my stuff before, and it was always a pain in the butt. And this actually uses all the header data for you, which is really convenient, right? Maybe you want temperature up in there, or I don't know, something else, whatever. It'll pull the information out of the FITS header and rename everything for you.
So Frank, if you've got if you don't have a filter wheel, let's say,
Yeah.
and you're using a red filter on one night, a green on another, is that a means by which you can actually record that data as being the red filter and so forth?
I wouldn't record it in the name like that. I would use the header modifier, right? Because you're probably missing that filter keyword entirely, right? So your stacking software is not going to know that there is a filter on there unless it's in the header. So I would absolutely use this. So like the next morning, you have all your files. You could just open up like the batch modifier, choose all your files, type in filter, red, run, and let it update the header on all those for you. So people with like manual filter wheels, filter drawers, like on a RASA or something, right, where you may not necessarily have that information in there, is a great way to just put it in. And then it's actually in the header, right? It's not some file name you're hoping is going to get read somewhere. It's actually header data that stacking software and everything else can read.
I had to do that recently for a group project where somebody had data that was one channel and it wasn't in the header. So PixInsight has a backdoor method to do it, and this sounds so much easier.
I try to make things user friendly here. I guess user friendly for the person that creates it and user friendly for the actual user, maybe two different things sometimes. But um, I that's partly why I have a lively Discord. If you guys haven't been to the Discord, I recommend it. There's like, I think there's like 2,000 members now on Discord.
Yeah, you ask one question and you'll get lots of input. It's a great Discord to be part of. And it's what, like $3 a month, I think, to join?
Well, it's nothing. It's nothing.
It's free.
I mean,
Okay.
Discord's free. Yeah. You can pay to have a better Discord experience if you want like little things on your avatar or to
Hmm.
upload larger files or something. But Discord itself is free.
Okay. I
So
think well, do you have like a channel membership? Is that what it
I
is?
do. So YouTube,
Oh,
I
that's
do
right.
have a channel membership on there. Yeah, I think it's $2.99. I put
That's
it
what I
for
was thinking of.
if you wanna help support me. That's a way to do it is just YouTube membership. Also under About Me, if you go to About, I have a donation button here too. If you're in a position to help out. Um, the History Explorer is really cool. So I have your RASA um, Helix Nebula data here. So we'll manipulate this, and then we'll be able to talk about that there.
Great. So,
Shortcuts.
just so everybody
Yeah.
knows, I gave Frank some of our data and I asked him to try to play with it. And if he has time to do that, we might get him to show how he might handle that data. But I don't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I definitely want to at least walk through some steps, right? Just to get it out there. But the History Explorer is really nice. Um, it's very much like the History Explorer in PixInsight, but it can um, it can do some other nice things in there too. Shortcuts, just very similar to making process icons in PixInsight. You can drag off all these things and um, edit the presets for them and save the presets back to them, and then they're going to be on here. So you can build out your canvas how you want. Um, Especially now that I've really updated statistical stretch, and you could rename these things. This was stat stretch HDR or something, right? So you kind of remember what they are. Um, so you could make shortcuts with that. You could export and import them here as well if you want to, have different groups of shortcuts saved for whatever. You got a narrow band set of shortcuts, you got a broadband set of shortcuts, what have you. Um, and so you can do things like that. I also have view and function bundles. They are my equivalent of image and process containers. So uh, for view bundles, you can add all your views in here. You could also add files in here as well. I only got the one view open right now. You can make it into a little bundle, and then you could drag and drop things on the bundle as well to run on all the stuff in there. So very similar to like dropping a process onto a image container, right? Um, the other one is function bundles. This is very similar to process containers where you could load up a whole bunch of steps, call it whatever you want. You can compress it to a chip. Now here's my pre-process steps. It does remind you got to press and hold Alt and drag and drop, so you could have multiple function bundles as well to run all your different processes. And that, it's a good way, just like in PixInsight. Maybe you got a whole bunch of files you're going to do some processing on. You don't want to open 50 windows, right? You're going to add all your file names into a bundle and then just run the processes on them. So that features in there as well. I also have a cheat sheet for all like keyboard shortcuts and other shortcuts and stuff in here, which would have been really helpful if PixInsight had a cheat sheet on some of their shortcuts and stuff. Um, and then some other similar things, right? You could cascade your views, minimize them, stuff like that. Um, there's I mentioned all those different panels. You could find them all under view and view panels. Like here's my layers panel. You can also get them all if you just right click up in the menu bar. You can see all the stuff up here too. Man, there's just so much. I've added so much. You could drag it. You could drag these little icons around to customize your toolbars. All the toolbars are draggable. You could place them pretty much wherever you want. You could organize your screen how you want. Hell, you don't even need them on the same screen. I could have them on a different monitor, and it works just fine. Settings, there's some normal preference kind of stuff in here. Nothing crazy. Since Seti Astro Suite can talk to a number of different programs, you got to tell it where like Cosmic Clarity, StarNet, OSTAP are. Um, if you're on Windows, you don't need to tell where Graxpert is. It just knows because it was Windows installed. But if you're on Linux or Mac, you need to tell where Graxpert is. And just some other things in here. You could this whole background graphic. You could actually like make it brighter or more transparent, or make your own background. Um, just things like that. And then there's just a general about. There's a documentation where if you go there, I've started a wiki page for Seti Astro Suite. It is by far not complete. So if anybody here wants to contribute to writing any of this, please, that would be amazing. But I tried capturing some of the things. Really importantly, there's building on a Mac OS or a Windows build. So I guess I didn't even talk about how to get this yet, but that's in there. Um, there's a check for updates. So I've this whole thing has changed so much. Um, if you're on an installed version and you check for updates, you can update right there or go, hey, there's a new update. Do you want to download and install it? You say, yeah, it downloads it for you and fires up the installer, which is really nice. You don't have to juggle files or anything like that. If you're a more tech savvy person and you're familiar with the term pip install, you could just pip install Seti Astro Suite Pro and it'll install Seti Astro Suite Pro for you now. Or you could even run it from the GitHub source code. If you really want to have the bleeding edge, right, you could pull up and just run it from the dev version in there where I'm actually tweaking. I am very pleased at the number of people on Discord that chose to just chug through it, set it up so they can run it from GitHub, because if they ever have a problem, it literally allows me to change the code and have them try it immediately. And it's been the coolest thing. You know, that some guy sitting in, I don't know, I don't even remember where it was, Italy. And, you know, he was having a problem with this. And it's like, oh, yeah, that's actually a bug. Here, let me fix that quick, pull it down quick and give it a go. It was clean. He was good to go. Right. It was like, if you're waiting for the next version, you can't do it that fast. And it's, you know, emails back and forth and sending screenshots and a bigger pain in the butt that way. So whew, that's the big that's the big overview here of Seti Astro Suite Pro. You can,
Frank, is
yeah,
the ability to run it from GitHub in your wiki page somewhere?
yes. So let me pull that back up.
One of our members noted that he was having an issue with the download. He said the link on the SETI Astro website to the GitHub errors out on the PixInsight side. So at your convenience, you might want to address that, but go ahead
Yes,
with that.
yep, I absolutely can. So on the wiki here, if you got a Windows machine, you can click Build Windows, and this is going to take you step by step what to do. You're going to need Python 3.12. Choose a good folder, how to clone the repository, how to set up your virtual environment,
Right.
how to do all the stuff is in here. Also, I made a video on me doing this step by step for Windows, mostly because I'm a Windows guy.
Right.
There's a whole Mac OS set of instructions as well. I am not a Mac guy, but I have two really smart Mac users on my Discord that hop in immediately. In fact, I have a dedicated Mac OS issues channel. So if you ever run into any problems, if you're a Mac person trying to get any of this stuff set up, man, I think they sleep less than I do just monitoring Discord for Mac problems. I don't know. They're amazing individuals out there, just, you know, just part of the community.
Is it mainly written in Python?
Yeah, the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
It's all Python. I I am not a well, I am now, I guess, right? I've been doing this a year, but prior to this, I was not like a hobby coder or nothing. I I knew some Visual Basic from my younger days, and then to write any scripts in PixInsight, I was like, I'm a smart guy. I should be able to do this. Um, and it was at the time, it was kind of when ChatGPT was getting rolling, and everybody and their mother was making videos on asking ChatGPT stupid things like what should I observe tonight, or what equipment should I buy, and they were making videos like that. I was asking it, do you know PixInsight? Do you know how to program scripts in PixInsight? Do you know JavaScript? And that's how I started all this stuff.
Right.
Um,
Did you try
I
JavaScript or C Sharp before you went to Python?
Yeah, so I'm trying to find even if I had it up here. Yeah, so this is my actual chat. I saved it with um Chat GPT when I started. Literally the first thing, hi, are you familiar with the Astro processing software PixInsight? Do you know you can write scripts in it?
Yeah.
All
It's
this, it
still
just,
JavaScript, isn't it?
yeah, went through JavaScript to build out scripts, and it was really painful. There was this excellent video by Robert Sartori on scripting in PixInsight, which was hugely helpful.
Right.
I was able to use stuff from there and then just dialogue back and forth. And um, as you can see, I have tons of stuff. Again, I didn't know JavaScript, but you kind of I really love ChatGPT because it does all the heavy typing lifting for you. It will just type its ass off, excuse
Right.
me, to get you stuff. And I would say half the time it doesn't work. You put in the code, try it, something errors, you give it the error, and it goes, "Oh, my mistake." It'll do stuff like
Right.
that. But so that was JavaScript, and then to make these things standalone, I think statistical stretch was the first one I did standalone. I needed I needed something else, right? So again, it was just Python's easy. We started going in Python. I didn't know any Python, um, and again, just I know math. I know a lot about our hobby. I know what we need. I know all the math behind all this stuff. Just being able to program it in a language is the part I don't know. So
Right. Right.
that's really what I've done this whole time, and I've said that on plenty of videos. I'm not ashamed of it. Chad GBT and he's my partner in crime making all this stuff, and it's the only way I've been able to actually
Now,
to
in
do
some
it.
of the screens that just came up, I saw John Murphy's name, and I bought him a coffee a couple of times for his mosaic support.
Oh,
Do
okay,
you have mosaic support in your suite?
I do. So it is right here. It's my Mosaic master. You could add in if you have a bunch of views open, you could add in the views. You could add images directly from it. Um, it requires a WCS astrometric solution. It will go through
Right.
and project the image onto the celestial sphere first. And then in the overlap area, it'll do um, stellar matching and distortion. So a fiend's going to be the fastest, right? That's just kind of the easy translation, minor skewing kind of stuff. But it also supports homography transforms, things like that. I also have a C star mode
Oh, that's
where,
useful.
oh yeah, and I've yelled at the C star users so many times. Stop using that mode. shoot mosaics like a normal human in panels, because right now
Right.
all you're doing is like you took a deck of playing cards and scattered it on the table and hope it gets good coverage, right? And you usually end up one tiny little patch in the middle that's your good noise free area, and then all the rest of it's garbage. But it's there, and it's not as detailed as the other one, right? It's not going to try doing all this projection stuff. It's literally going to take the first image, plop it down, take the next one, try to fit it, take the next one, try to fit it. It'll go through all the images that way, and then it'll go back from the start any it missed in case there were gaps at the time, and just keep doing them like that. So yeah, so there's my mosaic master in here. So
Right.
I really made it for the average user. I don't think there's anything that any other software provides that I don't have in here, and then a ton of other stuff that you could only get through some other scripts or something
Right.
in said software. Like,
Well, I mean that's like PixInsight. There are so many scripts now.
right, and that's kind of the thing. Base PixInsight's pretty blah. It's all the hard work that all these other people did for it,
Yeah. Yeah.
that make it good.
Well, including
And
yourself.
and I didn't want that for Seti Astro Suite. I was like, I'm going to just make all the good things.
Right. Right.
So it's literally just recently I opened up scripts, but everything else in here, Blemish Blaster, all this stuff that I had in there, it is in here. And then a lot of other great ideas that I've seen around too, I've made in here. Like selective color correction is a really good one. And if you have like Jurgen's toolbox and PixInsight, it is very similar, but this thing it could be so much more powerful because it's written in Python, and you're not limited to, it's not even full JavaScript. It's PJSR, which is PixInsight's JavaScript runtime environment, which is like if you took JavaScript and flushed half of it down the toilet, that's what you're left with in PixInsight to try to do any scripting. And it's just so limiting. But yeah, I guess if you want, I could kind of run through. Oh no, I should answer that question about the network error first.
Correct. Thank you.
Yeah. So PixInsight. Where this? I don't. Are they in the meeting right now?
George, let's see.
It was George, right? George, are you able to comment?
Comment on which part?
I don't see him in the list.
Yeah, he's there.
Oh, yes, there
Oh
he is.
yeah. Yeah, I basically went to the website and I tried to go to the, I guess it's, you put it into PixInsight then and not download them directly from the GitHub site then.
Correct. I was just going to say that. This is where the URL has to go. If you just try typing in this, you'll get like a 404 error because the link doesn't exist like that.
Gotcha.
So you go to resources, updates, manage repositories, and then you will add, and you just copy that URL into there. And then you'll just go right back and then say check for updates. It'll do its little spinny thing, and it'll, when it finds it, it'll say you got a new update, and then you close PixInsight and open it back up, and it should be there for you.
Cool. Thank you, sir.
Yep. And I don't have any updates. I've been updating here recently. I guess that's the other thing. I just recently updated statistical stretch. If anybody saw that video, I did it originally in Seti Astro Suite Pro, and it was my intention only to do it in Seti Astro Suite Pro because what I had first experience from the new multi-scale adaptive stretch in PixInsight, I was like, this is perfect. They finally put statistical stretch in PixInsight. It only took them 18 months, So like the first two sliders are essentially statistical stretch, right? You're setting your target median. It does the stretch to the target median. I was like, this is wonderful. I'm only going to update Seti Astro Suite Pro then. And there was a bit of backlash on the YouTube comments when I said that. Um, so I did dig in more on PixInsight and realize the error of my ways. MAS is not what I was hoping it was going to be. It is definitely not the end all be all for stretches. Namely, you can't do an unlinked stretch in the dang thing. So if you're doing narrowband or whatever, you're not using that tool at all. And you can't get any of the benefits from it because of that. You're forced into a linked stretch using MAS. So I did go ahead and then also fully update statistical stretch in here too to 0.2 now, just because I had to do some other little niceties in there. But I've added the black point sigma. It calculates how many clip pixels it's actually going to clip, unlike MAS where you're going on a wing and a prayer. I don't even know how you're supposed to determine how many pixels you're clipping with MAS. It has HDR compression, which is the same HDR compression I instituted in Seti Astro Suite Pro. It has a Luma only stretch, and I'm sure you guys have heard of Verilux stretch. That's just a luminance stretch. I don't know why it got such
Special
a big
name.
special thing. It's literally if you extract the Luma out of your image, run statistical stretch, and shove it back in, ta-da! that's your Verilux stretch. I don't recommend doing that. You oversaturate everything and it color clips your data. But hey, for those that want to do it, you can check the checkbox and let it run. And then some of the normal things. So that's the same, the same way I implemented it over here too. So now that's updated in PixInsight as well after going through and looking at it a little more carefully.
So, Frank, for live stacking, is the idea to run it on one of those little melee PCs?
Yeah, you absolutely can. Yep, live stacking. There's nothing fancy in there. In fact, even though Seti Astro Suite Pro looks fancier now than it did back in its old original format with the tabs, if anybody actually had it back when it was that version, it is a lot more lightweight now and more optimized than it was back then. So it even runs easier on those little ones. But yeah, absolutely. You select your folder. You can even load in master darks and master flats and stuff if you want. It has it could do mono to color if you choose that. It'll as the reds come in and make some reds, it'll add the blues or whatever. And then, in fact, in the wrench icon, it also has narrowband mapping. So it's going to read the filter data as the hydrogens come in, oxygens come in. You could tell it to do a different palette if you want, as you're gathering that data too. There's also a show metrics, as it will bring in the images. It'll start building metrics for you. And maybe I have, hold on, let me see if I have a test folder.
In the for the narrowband live stacking, do you do some sort of linear fit or some sort of matching? I mean, that one channel could be super faint compared to another.
Right. Yeah, so everything's median matched in live stacking.
Okay.
And yeah, you're right. Oxygen, if it's one of those objects where every single sub looks like there's nothing in it and you got to wait until you've collected 40 hours of data and stretch the heck out of it before you see anything, maybe live stacking's not the route you need to go, Chris. But it's there for those that just want to have fun. I wouldn't use this on your average night of acquiring data. This is more for outreach and star parties and stuff. As you're shooting data, your family wants to see something on your screen. I'm going to let you know that right now. They don't want They don't
Right.
want to stare at PhD graph all night and then you process it later. Um, and so that's in there just as well. Um, yeah, I wanted to see if I had a folder.
I
I
mean,
might have a test folder of
we
stuff.
could certainly use this for the Noble Observatory, Stephen. I mean, right now we've got it's cheap. It's like $18 subscription to SharpCap that does live stacking.
Mm-hmm.
But this would work too. And it's just a one-shot color camera. I mean, it's the RASA data that you've got there.
Okay. Yeah, let me see if I have a test folder of stuff here. They're pretty big images. Oh, and they're pretty faint. Yeah, so this is Sharpless 280, which is kind of south
Right.
and east of Orion. It's a pretty dim target, but um, I there's like two modes. There's process and monitor, where I'll look at the folder and process everything into it, and then start monitoring. And then there's just a monitor only. So you can kind of just have it set up how you want, or process everything that's currently in there. But I'm gonna see if I can stop this.
Can you do the F the FHWM, or is it FWHM? Oh my gosh, full width half measure.
Yeah, so
No, you do
for
that in pixels, not arc seconds.
yeah, it's pixels. Mostly because everybody's acquisition software is different.
Yeah,
And
but you need to
it
know your
is
subframe scale to make sense.
yeah, it is um a nightmare to try to um do do it all for everybody like that. It again, it's live stacking. It's just
Yeah,
pixels. Put
yeah,
in how many you want, right? And this is just gonna flag it and not stack it in the thing, right? It's really nothing too sophisticated here for that
right,
stuff.
right.
Um, okay, I wanted to.
So there's something else that would be very useful, which I struggle with sometimes, is finding a star that I can slew to for calibrating my guiding. And you want a star that's on the celestial equator, but we also want it as high as possible, so coming up to the meridian. And at different times of year, I just use different stars. I was wondering whether
Mhm.
you showed something earlier where you can search on a star and see its RA and deck. Whether you can search for a calibration star would just give
No,
you
I don't. I don't have anything in that, but PhD two does have um calibration guide star assist.
Oh, does it? Oh, okay, I've
It
never used
does.
it because I use ASIA. It doesn't implement
Oh yeah. Have you thought
Right.
about the trash can for that little red thing?
Yeah, really is. They're committing copyright infringement, you know.
No, we don't want to go down that rabbit hole, Stephen.
Okay, well, all right, never mind.
Yeah,
What?
I am glad I bought a little Melee Quieter 3 and slapped that on my telescope
Right.
instead of grabbing an ASI Air. So
Okay. Well, I've
unfortunately, I
got
don't think I'm going to be able to help you then with the guide star, but PhD two definitely has a thing in it. I guess really quick, to get to all my stuff, SetiAstro.com. It's my website. Under Astro program, Seti Astro Suite Pro is Seti Astro Suite Pro. It has the download and the mirror site for the installer. If you just want, the old fashioned, get an installer and run it that way. I also put on my 100 hours on Andromeda as free data, and same with just like a beginner one shot color image as well. Mostly because it saves me some headaches when people are having difficulties with something and it's their data that's really bad and it's not an issue with Seti Suite Pro. This is something I could always point them to and say, hey, grab some of this, see if it works for you, right? Like that, and you know, if it's a quality night and you want 100 hours of data on Andromeda, you know, knock yourself out. I also have the video on how to run it from the GitHub. Somebody asked about that. There's also pip install Seti Astro Suite Pro. Just like a lot of ways to do it now. Cosmic Clarity is in here. Remember, you have to download Cosmic Clarity separately than Seti Astro Suite Pro. They're different programs. If you have PixInsight, you probably already have grabbed Cosmic Clarity, or maybe not, but it's worth grabbing. You know, it's my deconvolution and noise removal stuff. And this is satellite, you know, how this is the non-clipping version. You could either clip it all to black or just remove the satellite trails. This is the upscaling it can do. So a lot of things in there. And I know, you know, a lot of people have spent the money on the BlurX, StarX, NoiseX, and those are amazing as well. These are other, you know, this is a free tool. You might as well grab another free tool. I do find that Cosmic Clarity Denoise does a better job than NoiseX later in post processing. Like if you're coming towards the end of your processing and you want to do one final pass of denoising, Cosmic Clarity Denoise is amazing at doing that final kind of right towards the end of your processing. Just clean up any extra noise you got. And then, especially with the new model of NoiseX that hallucinates horribly, maybe my denoiser isn't so bad anymore. If you've ran NoiseX and you've seen a whole bunch of structure left over that probably isn't real structure, that's what's going on with it.
That was going to be my one of my questions for you. Is we're seeing, because I'm one of the reviewers on Astrobin, we're seeing a lot of people. It's either part of BlurX or it's part of NoiseX, but they're whatever it is they're doing, it's creating structure that doesn't actually exist.
It's NoiseX.
It's noise exterminate. Okay.
I can show you right now.
Okay. Yeah. Please do, because this is something that's I think people need to know about.
Yeah, I'll just grab your RASA data here. Let me hit it with ADBE, get rid of your gradient. Fabulous script, by the way.
You're basically using the equivalent of a process container.
This is my script.
Okay.
ADBE.
Yeah.
So if you've never used that, it's my automatic dynamic background extraction.
Oh, I've used that.
It does a round of ABE first, and then it sprinkles the whole image with a bunch of sample points and allows all those sample points to roll downhill. It uses gradient descent on all those sample points so it can avoid stars, avoids bright nebula, tries to find the true background of your image, and then runs DBE based on all those sample points. Excuse me. And in fact, in Seti Astro Suite Pro, I've implemented the same thing. I just called it ABE here. I didn't need to distinguish it from anything else, unlike in PixInsight, but it's the same tool over here too. So I am a firm believer that properly placed sample points in doing something like dynamic background extraction or RBF fitting is going to give you the superior gradient correction over Grexpert's AI gradient removal, which will definitely strip data out of your image, or heaven forbid, if you've ever actually used this multi-scale gradient correction tool in PixInsight, that thing will just take a sledgehammer to your data and you won't have anything left. But back to the topic at hand, let's run NoiseX. And You'll see a bunch of weird little squiggles is just really what it boils down to. Just let it run.
This is on a
And
linear, it's a linear image, right?
yeah, linear image.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess this is something too, just so everybody knows. You don't need to run any of these things in the linear state. There's like two things you should probably have to do in the linear state. Everything else you don't need to be in linear. So everybody that just loves doing stuff in the linear state, it's just not needed. Um, because all these neural net tools, uh, they delinearize your data anyways. They have to run. So all the data is normalized going into the neural net, and then it has to be relinearized going back in. And then StarNet, especially if you ever on StarNet, that only operates in 16-bit information. So if you have your 32-bit linear data, what happens, and I know because I've had to program it, you stretch it, convert it to 16 bits, let StarNet run on it, take that 16-bit image now, convert it back to 32 bits, and then push it back into a linear state.
My gosh.
So you lose data during that conversion process. So if you're running things like StarNet, don't do it from a deep linear state. Give it a mild stretch first. Get it out of the gutter such that you don't lose your data. So anyways, let's this is a pretty clean image, but
It's from our Portal 2 site, so yeah, it's gonna
yeah,
be
but almost all this stuff in the background it doesn't exist.
yeah.
I mean, really zoom in.
Okay.
All right, so here we're really in there, right? And let's
Right.
here's the data.
It's created little artifacts.
It just makes up a bunch of this stuff that's not there.
So that was run deconvolution before I do noise reduction.
Yeah, and yeah, that's a good route. But I'm just trying to warn you.
Yeah.
Here's a good thing, and you'll see it a lot on diffraction spikes. You'll see the end of the diffraction spike start to get wavy, and you'll start seeing all these other weird things. Let me pull the stars out, and then we'll stretch it harder, and you'll see. But Stephen, to your point, that stuff you're seeing, it's from NoiseX, and
Okay.
the noisier the data is, the worse
Oh yeah.
this stuff is, right? Because it's grabbing those variations in noise and it's thinking it's structure.
Something. Yeah. No, we've all been there.
Yeah. And then on the flip side, you like Graxbert denoise will make a bunch of stars where there's not stars. And I'm sure you've seen that too. And I guess it stripped all that out of there. I guess I'm pretty biased. I think mine is pretty good for not making up stuff and not making a bunch of stars. But it's absolutely NoiseX. They're just running it too hard. So what I tell people for NoiseX especially,
turn it down.
Man, your very first one, if you want to run it linear, you want to be like down here, 0.3, 0.4, really light. Don't go heavy with it. You could always do more denoising later. Don't shove it all in one go, especially in the linear state. And you guys probably know that the only thing you have to do in the linear state is if you're going to do a star-based SPCC or SFCC,
Right.
that has to be done linear because it's looking at linear fluxes from catalog linear fluxes for that white balance. And then the other thing you need to do in the linear state is continuum subtraction.
Right.
Beyond
And that
those,
was something else I was going to ask you about because you have the green channel as the means for subtracting for, I think it's O3 and S2. Am I right?
3 and S2. We can go on the math in one sec, but
Okay.
those are the only things you have to do in the linear state.
Right.
Literally everything else you can be nonlinear. So I guess I've never understood the appeal of wanting to do everything in a linear state. Don't stretch it so you blow it all out and start working on it, but you can give it a little stretch, get it out of the gutter so you have some pixel room to work with as you're manipulating things to get going. For continuum subtraction, yes, you do subtract the green channel because that's actually your continuum channel. When you normalize this stuff, you're going to have, didn't have stuff ready for continuum subtraction. Let's see what it got. Sure, we'll do this. So when you normalize the data for continuum subtraction, you're going to put the narrow band in the red channel, and then the broad band will go in the green and the blue channels. So it'll be like hydrogen, red, red, or oxygen, green, green, or sulfur, red, red. And I think you're asking for the oxygen why I was just using the green channel.
Right.
Because the blue channel is garbage. It has half the number of pixels. Your sensor's not as sensitive in the blue range, so it's noisier. So if you do some kind of combination where you take part of your blue channel and average it with part of your green channel, you're just introducing noise into your green channel, and then you're going to use that noisier channel for your continuum subtraction.
But if I'm using a mono camera, right, and I've got hydrogen alpha data, O3 data, S2 data, and I want to do continuum subtraction, wouldn't, in that situation, you're not going to have the same kind of issue with the blue channel having lots of noise because it's purely the blue filter.
Your sensor's still not as sensitive there, but
okay.
In order to do continuum subtraction, you're going to take red, green, and blue, right?
Right.
As well for your continuum data. Your green channel is going to be the best for that.
Okay.
It also has the part of the continuum that's closest to the O3 as well. Your blue filter has stuff that's closer to UV, and that's going to also not be as well focused normally onto your sensor and have its own set of atmospheric aberration more so than your green channel. The bluer you get, the foggier the sky looks. So the data isn't as crisp and clear if you're looking at a blue channel versus a green channel versus a red channel. Ideally, for continuum subtraction, you would use a filter with the same bandpass, but just offset from your emission line that you're looking at fully in the continuum part of the spectrum. We just don't own those things. Nobody owns a 5 nanometer red filter with no emission lines in it, right? But that's why I solely use the green. It just and it keeps things a little simpler. You're really not trying to, as much as we like to think it, we're not running Hubble. And so sometimes just processing is what you need to do.
So right, the reason I was asking, one of the reasons I was asking is because there is a photometric continuum subtraction script
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with it.
by that guy. I forgot his name. I should know it.
Jimmy the Chicken.
Yes, him, Jimmy the Chicken.
Mm-hmm.
And he uses you've got cheapers. You can use blue or green or red for any of these, and he suggests using the blue to for the O3.
I
And
disagree with Jimmy the Chicken.
okay, I disagree with him on a few things also, but that's okay. All right.
Yeah. Maybe he has a reason for it. I don't know. I wouldn't. And it may be with how. Actually, I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good
I,
because I'm learning something here. Because I had these two different alternatives, and it was like, well, okay, so which one is correct? It should just be a matter of math, right? And there can only be one answer, I think. All right. Well, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
yeah. No worries. So
Mhm.
when you're doing a continuum subtraction, the math is pretty weird behind it. Oh, that was red.
Stephen, where is that continuum extraction
In Pix
script?
Insight,
I know where the Seti Astro one is. The other one. Which one?
night night photons, photometric
Uh,
continuum subtraction.
I don't have that. Okay, that's why I don't see it. I haven't got his scripts. Okay, not using them. I mean, I use NB Color Mapper. I think that does the continuum extraction for you automatically.
Nope.
No? Oh, okay.
No, narrow band color mapper only colorizes your image.
Huh, okay.
Yeah, so um, I don't know, let me grab something here. All right, narrowband color mapper. It's the one by Adam Block.
It's might be, yeah. It's
Yep,
no, it's Mike Cranfield and Adam Block, right?
yep.
That's it.
Yeah, all this does is colorize your image.
Right.
That's all it does. It doesn't do anything else. Just colorizes it. So you could choose the color you want it to have. You could add it in the layer up there, and you could layer up your images like that to build up things. But it doesn't do any continuum subtraction at all.
Ah,
Yeah, it's I mean you can do the same thing. I mean, I can convert this grayscale image to RGB, and then like if I just want to give this a solar look to it, you can do something like this. Right. Essentially, this is all narrowband color mapper is doing, is what I just did in curves.
right, right.
Yeah, and then man, back continuum subtraction. Um, so the one in Seti Suite Pro is a lot beefier than the one in Pix Insight. where you could load in starry and starless ones. So, like on the photometric continuum subtraction, you could tell it to do starless ones. This one, on mine, you gotta load in starless ones. But we had H alpha, and then the red is red. And it'll do, the denoising, get output a linear if you want. There's some advanced stuff in here. If you want to change the number of the threshold to detect the stars, there's a Q factor you could play around with too, but usually the defaults are pretty good. But just putting the information in like that, it's going to go ahead and do everything it needs to do. Normalize the images, do the actual subtraction, bring the subtracted image up into the nonlinear space. It's going to run a denoise at the right time during that whole process. So all those kind of items go in there. There's a number of steps that have to go into it for sure, but either one. So this is the one in Seti Astro Suite Pro. There's the one in PixInsight as well. You're getting essentially the same means to an end. Even with that photometric one from Night Photons, that's using star fluxes and calculating linear fits with star fluxes. Whereas in mine, it's doing stellar-based white balancing to normalize the images. I haven't seen any difference. I've ran them both, and really haven't seen any kind of a difference. So, you use whichever one you're comfortable with, honestly. But yeah, that's just how to run that. And Triangulum, if you've never taken narrowband data in Triangulum, highly recommend doing so. That whole galaxy is nothing but a giant nebula. Yeah. It's just solid with nebulosity. It's pretty crazy. I guess real quick, I mean, I could walk through some things. Seti Suite Pro has a display stretch, much like STF. I just call mine display stretch. You could do linked or unlinked. There's a hard stretch. There's other things in there. Some steps I always like doing with OSC data like this is I like removing the pedestal as a first step. Not that it is necessary. It just sometimes helps later processing. You're taking some of the work from like background neutralization and color calibration out of those algorithms, so they don't have to do this whole extra initial step. So, you can see on a linked display stretch here, all your channels are just all over the place. Even the minimums are, not all aligned. So, doing a pedestal removal, all that's going to do is get rid of that pedestal on the bottom. It's going to just take your image minus the minimum of the image. So now it set all the minimum values right to 0 and got rid of that pedestal for you. And now looking at the histogram, they're not going to be really aligned yet. We didn't do anything. All we did was get rid of the pedestal, but they're a heck of a lot closer now. Wow. And your data actually starts at 0 and moves up. So when you're doing further processing, I find it's just the other stuff just runs better without having to deal with all that extra space on the bottom. Like I said, I have ADBE in here. I just call it ABE. Like ADBE in PixInsight, you can define an exclusion area. This is nice. You could do different downsample factors, your smoothness, poly degree, all that same fun stuff. So I'm just going to go ahead and run ABE here to get rid of that gradient. And you can see it tells you what step it's doing down there. And like everything in this hobby, a lot of this stuff is really dependent on how good your computer is to to do some of this, especially on your RASA image here. It's a nicer size image. So now the gradient's gone. If we do an unlinked display stretch, I mean, now it's starting to look pretty good. Then the next step I would do is background neutralization. I have a nice little find background button. It puts a little square. It's the same find background as my find background script in PixInsight, right? It's going to put a bunch of points on your image, let them do gradient descent. There's a whole bunch of other logic in there to make it smarter than just that, but it'll find what it thinks is the background, and then I could apply the neutralization. And now this is going to get all the medians in that sample patch all lined up. So now if we do a link stretch, we're getting closer. Now all the background is neutralized. You could run SFCC, or which I call SFCC. PixInsight is SPCC. But I find my stellar-based white balancing is good enough. SPCC is just a fancy white balance at the end of the day. Sure, you could choose what star flux to go to, but I mean, sure. I find the stellar-based white balance is just as good and a heck of a lot easier and faster. So what this does is it's going to detect a bunch of stars in your image, and then all it's going to do is adjust the white balance in your image to essentially make those stars white. And when you run that, you're going to get a nice little graph of where all the stars were and how they get kind of shifted around for the balance. And now you're in a calibrated mode. Now you may want to run something like Cosmic Clarity in Seti Astro Suite Pro, right? It'd be like doing Blur X and Noise X in PixInsight. Again, with this stuff, less is more when you're first doing your initial going on this thing. So I'm just going to go ahead and execute that. Cosmic Clarity is fully GPU supported on all the OSs, unless you have an AMD on Linux. I don't recommend AMD on Linux. But like if you have a Mac, it'll use your Metal Performance shaders. Obviously Windows, if you have an NVIDIA card, no problems there. If you got an AMD or a ARC, it's going to use DirectML to run those. Seti Astro Suite Pro has a little resource monitor down here where it'll show you like your GPU and your CPU, how those are running, how much RAM's used. You could turn that thing on and off. So we'll just let this run here for a second. It's one of these processes. It just takes it a second to run.
While that's running, is your equivalent of SPCC, does that require the astrometry for the image?
It sure does, yeah.
Okay. And you have built in an astrometry function to find the astrometry for every image, right?
So I don't have a native support in here. That's why there's a path for OSTAP. So I recommend downloading OSTAP. You may already have OSTAP for plate solving in your acquisition software anyways.
Right.
It'll use OSTAP first. If OSTAP fails, then it'll fall back on doing astrometry.net.
Right.
And it'll upload to astrometry.net for you, get the astrometric solution from them, and pull it down. Yeah, I did not spend, I felt it'd be a huge waste of my time if I spent all that time to get a native solver in here when there's already a really good solver out there for free.
Yeah.
in OSTAP, right? I guess we got to pick and choose our battles, right?
Right.
All right, so now that's ran. I'm going to go ahead and remove the stars now quick. I'm just going to use StarNet. It's going to ask if it's linear or not. This is a linear image still. We haven't done any stretching with it. So just run it with that. And again, For StarNet, it's just gonna do what it needs to do, fire up and utilize StarNet in that case. Like I said, I also have my own Dark Star. 9 times out of 10, StarNet's going to give you the better result. And I guess for those of you curious, I mean, I have talked with Russ Croman, and I'm not supposed to say much, but I would not anticipate his tools being locked away in PixSight Insight forever. We'll just say that. So yeah, I am hopeful in the not too far future, people will be running BlurX and StarX out of Seti Astro Suite Pro here. All right, so now we pulled the stars out. You can run statistical stretch right away. This is a distinct object. It's it's just your nebula right in the center of the screen. You can adjust, the black sigma here. It'll tell you how many pixels it'll end up clipping. We can give it a preview. It'll give us the preview here. And sure, we'll just, I'm just trying to kind of go through some steps here. We'll apply that. And then for the stars, just use star stretch. It's the same star stretch. We can give it a preview here. Sure, apply to document. So now our stars are stretched. If you do minimize things, it'll kind of go down to its own little thing down there. Some other things we could do in here. Maybe you want to, maybe the core here is just a little too bright for your taste. I have my own little HDR tool in here. And we can, you could play around with this thing a whole bunch. That's the other thing. I have videos on every single one of my functions I've ever created. I have a video for, so I would recommend looking at my YouTube first, seeing if you find what you're looking for there. Sure, that toned down the core a bit for us. I'll apply that to the document. I really want to show you guys selective color here. That's this little button here. With this, you could shift click over here, and it's going to, well, you can click anywhere and it'll show you where on the color wheel you're at. But if you shift click, it will put a little, some sidebars on it, so you could actually use it as a mask. And maybe you want to give the blue in the center a little bump up. Here, I'll go crazy so you could actually see it on your screen, but obviously you wouldn't do that. You would, give it a lot more subtle. When you're playing with colors, less is more usually, right? You can blur the mask more. You could show the mask, where the mask is at. Maybe we want this blurred quite a bit. Yeah, we want the mask blurred a little. We'll just increase the blues in the center there for us. You can apply that. You can do that with all these colors. I have a bunch of preset colors in there too. Like, you can choose a different color. You could just drag these things and adjust, what colors you want to change in your image. You could look at the mask as you're actually doing that. I know your helix here doesn't have the broadest colors out there. Not like, some other big HSO image or something, but you could play with the colors really quickly like that. Something else you may want to do is, maybe just increase the saturation of what's going on here. But you probably want to do a mask for that. You don't want to brighten the color of all this background stuff up. So mask creation in Seti Astro Suite Pro is pretty easy. I mean, you could just freehand draw masks if you want, much like, I had to invent a whole mask thing in PixInsight just so you could draw a freaking mask. But but you could do an ellipse. You could, if you do the entire image, I got like range selection. If you want to do um, like a range selection mask where you're going to keep it just tight in. We could even make it a lightness mask. We can give it a certain amount of blurring if you want. You can preview the mask from there. This is going to be our mask now. We could push it as a new document, and Seti Astro Pro, everything's a document. And then to apply the mask, I could shift click and drag it onto there. You're going to get a little square here saying that there's a mask. Much like in PixInsight, you can show and hide the mask with Control K. And then I could just open up curves, and maybe we just want to give it a little chroma boost. And I'll zoom in so you can see what's going on. And so you could really see. So, you could strip all the color out of the dang thing, or, go to cartoon levels. But maybe you just want to give it a little bump. You could apply that. You can, in curves, you could do multiple curves. You don't need to just do one. So like if you just want it, you can bring up the reds. I don't know. You can bring down the green. I'm not going to apply this. I'm just showing you. You could do different curves all at the same time in there. You could remove the mask just with this mask minus button. It's going to remove that mask. And like I said, now maybe we want to do another round of denoising. We went really light with the denoising before. Maybe we want to clear that up a little bit more. So we just want to do some denoising. Now we can go a little stronger with it. We've done a little more. So I'm just going to go ahead and execute and let Cosmic Clarity run. And then we'll screen the stars back in, and then I'll show you the History Explorer. And combining stars, that's always been kind of I don't know. Everybody asks how to combine stars when they're getting started out. I think you do it like 4 different ways in Seti Astro Pro now. I have a combine image function. There's pixel math. I have layers. I have or add stars button. All right, so that took care of
awesome.
The vast majority of that noise. Adding stars. Like I said, there's an add stars button. There's a combine image button. There's pixel math, or something you absolutely can't do it in PixInsight is layers. So let me this is our star list just so we can see the names easier. And then this one is our stars. And I'm going to open up my layers. I'm on the star list view. You could just drag and drop the stars on to there, and it's going to add a new layer. And just like in Photoshop, right here's all your different blend modes. I'm just going to click screen, and it's going to screen the stars back in for me. That's as easy as that is. And then you can just push merge to view, and that's going to collapse your layers and then lock it in here. So that was really fast, and I really went ugly with it, and I apologize for just rolling so fast. I would imagine you would spend a little bit more time, take a little more care with your stretching and curves and everything else, right? You probably want a darker background. In fact, we could probably just darken that up a little bit. And then, sure, yeah, something like that. And then the History Explorer is nice. So it gives you the full history of what we did here. But you can go back in time. If you double click any of these, it'll take you back to that stage. and you can actually compare it to the current view. So if you're trying to flip back and forth between stuff before and after, like maybe a few steps ago, you can go back a few steps ago and see where you were then versus where you're at now. And you're like, oh, maybe I didn't like that, right? So you can go back to that step and start, redo from whatever step in the past. But having this little slider guy is super convenient sometimes when you're trying to look back through maybe a couple steps ago, and you just, you're looking for that subtle change sometimes when you're kind of going back and forth, which is nice. And much like PixInsight, these things kind of snap to each other's size, and if you're like zoomed in here, you could like drag it over to the other, and it'll zoom to that same spot. You could even do like alt drag, and then that links them. So now your images are linked. And in fact, you could have 4 different linked groups within Seti Astro Suite Pro. So that barely touched anything, but it should be enough to let you look at everything. Like even extracting luminance in PixInsight, you get like the one option, extract luminance. But here you can choose between whether you're Rec 709, 601, 2020, whether you're doing SNR based luminance, or I got a bunch of different sensors in here. What sensor do you have? And it'll take the luminance based on its curves. So just a heck of a lot in here. I only realize how much there is when I try to describe everything on a call.
Well, it is truly amazing. And I think that this is really going to be helpful, especially for our club, because we're launching our dark sky observatory very soon. And people who don't even own a telescope or camera will be able to use our Raza and club equipment to, take pictures from our dark sky site and download the data, and then use something like Seti Astro Suite Pro for the purpose of doing the post processing. So in theory, they don't have to pay for anything, sort of.
Oh, that's amazing then.
Yeah, they don't even have to buy the camera. And that's why I'm so excited about this, because uh, people can now use our observatory, our camera, our telescope, and this kind of software to put an image together. Let me ask you one final question, because I know you've been so kind and gracious with your time. What about stacking? Do you envision having a WBPP type process, or do you already have that?
Yeah, it's already in here.
Oh, okay. He's already got it.
So yeah, it could take in XISF or FITS files, since I know for whatever reason some people actually save their raw subs in XISF. But you put in your darks. You could say turn those darks into master darks. You got a thing down here for your master darks. There's a whole page for your flats. You can do keywords. You could auto detect sessions. So when you're doing like flats the morning after of your session, if it's on auto detect, it's going to try to match up your flats to your lights based on a noon to noon day, right? Instead of a normal calendar day. So because you shoot overnight, right? You cross the
Right.
midnight line.
Right.
So it'll match up all your flats with that. It does cosmetic correction. In the image integration, I have auto crop, drizzling, image comet stacking, star trail mode. You could also split dual band one-shot color cameras. So it'll do all the registration of all your subs, and then it's going to split all your like if you're shooting with H2O3 and S or HAO3 and S2O3 filters, um, it'd be nice if you could stack all that oxygen data together instead of having two separate masters. So that's what this allows you to do. It'll split it all, and that way you can stack all that oxygen data in one go instead of having two different masters. You could integrate your previously registered images, and there are just a utter crud ton of options when you're in here. So distortion correction, I like leaving it on homography. Alignment, fast single pass is usually enough because it does a coarse alignment and then it does the homography refinement. If you really want to be accurate, it could do 3 full passes, which may be necessary for drizzling. It tries to get down to less than 0.2 pixel accuracy for your drizzles. It'll use hardware acceleration if you have it set up. For image MM, I have 3 different hardware acceleration modes. If you have like a 3090 and 256 gig RAM, high octane let it rip mode is probably for you. If you're running on a laptop, normal is probably where you want to live. I do gradient scale correction, which is my version of local normalization, different drizzle kernel types, whole bunch of different things for multi-frame deconvolution. That's its own beast. You're going to probably want to watch those videos. Here's all the different rejections I do. I recommend the weighted Windsorized Sigma in here, or ESD, which is the same recommendations you'd get in PI anyways, right? You're going to want the weighted Windsorized or ESD. Cosmetic correction is it's way better than PI's auto cosmetic correction. If anybody's using that auto thing, turn it off and just use a template. Don't use that auto one in PI. Make your own template, set your own sigmas, because theirs will just eat the cores of stars if left on auto, especially on some Bayard images. It has comet stuff in there if you're doing comet processing, where it'll remove the stars. It'll do one where it's star aligned, one that's aligned on all the comet frames. It'll do a blend for you. So just a ton of stuff in Stacking Suite. Star Trail mode's fun. That's just a max stack. It doesn't try to do any alignment. So if you're shooting star trails, you can go ahead and turn it on that mode as well. So yeah, full Stacking Suite. And then if you have raw or TIFF formats, you could put them in here and it's going to convert them all to fits for you. So you could use them in the Stacking Suite as well.
Okay, so tell me again, what does PixInsight have that is not available in your processing suite?
Oh, nothing. In fact, I got more stuff.
So you were just being kind at the beginning of this by saying, hey, you can use both side by side, that you don't need PixInsight at all, really.
Unless you like their Mars gradient removal.
I don't even know what the Mars gradient tool is. I've been using yours. So there you go. All right.
I guess I did want to show you this real quick. Let me just sure, I'm going to pull all the stars. We'll see how long this search takes. I'm going to search the whole image for stars just to show you like the HR diagram and stuff. And the 3D model is really cool. I like when I did Andromeda, doing the 3D model of everything there, you could really see the structure of that galaxy. You can see how it's tilted. You can see which parts are closer and further away from you. The HR diagram is really cool. I got one guy on my Discord. He's really into HR diagrams and gets a ton of information out of them. Very science focused individual. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and just run it on the stars here. You can save them out. I also added this. So when you ever run a 3D model or a HR diagram, it's going to ask you if you want to save it. That way you could do it offline, right? If you're going to be presenting and you don't got access to the internet out wherever or whatever, you could actually save these ahead of time and look at them. But it'll just open it up in your browser. So here's all the stars in your Helix Nebula image. And as you mouse over them, it'll actually have, what star it is, which is really nice. I put the sun here as a reference. I have lines of constant solar radii in here that not a lot of HR diagrams have. That's these dashed lines. And then, like all my stuff, same with the 3D plot. If you click any of these things, it's going to take you right over to the Sinbad website, so you could start doing research and start digging into some of these objects. So this particular huge guy over here, this is a long period variable. You could just start the research from there. I always thought of what's in my image is just a springboard to actually start investigating stuff in your image. If I just do like, let's see here, this will have quasars and galaxies in it. We want large scale structure, and that's probably going to be good. Oh, each of these you could drill into as well in here. So let me see if I could just make a little a 3D plot as well. And then again, for like stars, it's going to pull, it says redshift or parallax. So for like stars, it's going to be parallax in milliarc seconds that it pulled from the Gaia data. And then for redshift, it's going to try pulling that. If you are searching the entire image like I'm doing, expect it to take a second. It's trying to get a lot of information down from Sinbad. Okay, so that's done. Let's go ahead and just open the 3D model. There's a whole bunch of things in here too. You could do different z-axis scales, legend color, image-based color. What? There's a bunch of options in here. I'm sure I have a video on using this thing, but I'll just open this. It'll now it has to compile the 3D model. It'll ask if you want to save it again, so that way you could just always have the 3D model with you. And then it'll open it in a browser. And then here's the 3D model of all the distant galaxies and stuff it found in there. There's some things that I love it, are great. So these objects are really close, right? 23,000 light years, 5,000 light years. They're listed as galaxies in the catalog. But Gaia got parallax measurements to these things, meaning they're not galaxies. They're stars in our own Milky Way, and they're miscatalogued. So You're going to find a bunch of things like this when you actually start using like the 3D modeler and stuff, where you're like, these aren't galaxies at all. Or you'll run across a star that's really far away because it actually has a redshift and no parallax, or just the amount of miscatalogue stuff is unbelievable. But so this is the 3D model. It's just fun to play around with. And then as with the other tool, everything's listed below it. That's up in here too. And you can see as you mouse over these things, it'll tell you what they are. And again, you can click on them. It's just going to take you over to Sinbad, so you can keep researching this kind of stuff. To just keep digging into it. You could do tons of stuff with this. You could save all these things as collages of objects, show their object names, like just there's a lot of what's in my image. We could probably have a whole seminar just talking about this tool. But so if you have PixInsight, I recommend bouncing your image over here just to use the better what's in my image as well.
Yeah. I got to tell you, my fiance is not going to be happy when she finds out that I've got all these new tools that I'm going to be playing with. She's a little bit perturbed that I spend a lot of time doing this to begin with, and now I've got even more tools that I'm very excited about. Anyway, Frank, thank you so much. You have been so generous with your time. If you don't mind, send me a place where I can send you a little gift card on behalf of the club to just a way of saying thank you
Oh,
for
thanks. Yeah.
making time to speak to us. And I'm going to come back in about a year or so and invite you back to find out all of the new and improved things that we might see over the next year.
Yeah. I'm hoping I'm running out of ideas at this point. but just like everything, one of the Linux users was like, "Hey, have you thought about planetary stacking? Because Registax and what's the other one?
Oh, I know what you mean. I forgot
I
the
can't
name.
think of it. Anyways, they're not on Linux. None of those stacking things are on Linux. I'm like, oh,
Auto
this is just
stack.
going to be another rabbit hole.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again. I greatly appreciate your time. We're going to push this out on YouTube, and I think I'm going to personally promote it because there's so much great content in here. And I think that people need to know about what you're doing and all of the capabilities of the SETI Astro suite now and in the future. So, we have a little bit of club business that we're
Yeah.
going to continue with. I think you're currently the host, Frank. If you could send that back to me, and
Yep.
you're you're invited to stick around if you want and hear about our dark sky site. But somehow I got a feeling maybe you've got stuff to do with your family. So we'll just say everybody, uh, I should ask, does anybody have any final questions for Frank before he signs off? Bill?
Oh yeah.
Um,
That
no.
sounds good one. Any questions?
Yeah. Uh, I'm not hearing any, so thanks again, Frank. I'll come back to you in about a year, and hopefully we'll see all of the new features you've got at that point. Meanwhile, members who can still stay on, please do, because we've got a very important update from Bob Circus about our new observatory and how it's going to be coming online. So thank you, Frank.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
Frank.
And talk to you in a year. And Bob Circus, are you there? You're on mute if you are.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you for being so patient and waiting. Bob's got a very important update for us. Go ahead, Bob.
So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Mhm. Okay. Can you see my screen yet?
No.
Hmm. Oh, okay. Let us go to. Here we go. All right. Okay. Can you all see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. So this is just an update on the website. Jim, Peter, and I have been working pretty hard on uh, uh, getting details and being able to dynamically frame. And I wanted to walk you through it. So right now we collect information from Telescopius every morning at sunrise. That's happening now, actually, and we are up to almost 1,500 different objects and details we have from Telescopius. So when we do a target search, um, we get all these details about the objects that are available. And there are 1,434, so not quite 1,500. But first, let me go through this. And keep in mind, I am not a UI guy. So if it looks sloppy and bad, I'm doing the best I can. Eventually, or hopefully, we'll get some help with this part of it. But Up here, this part of the layout's going to flush out. It'll be like any other website with key options and drop down menus. This bar here, I don't know where to put it yet, but it will have the time at rising star, UTC time, and the local sidereal time. And I believe my approach here on the shading here, it's either it might have something in there that says whether the weather is safe or unsafe. So in this list here, it's sorted by magnitude first, which isn't here. But each of these columns we can sort on. On the maximum altitude, if it's blue, it's kind of like middle of the road. Green is, above 60 degrees. And if we're in the red, it's pretty low. We're only going to image or allow an object to be imaged if it's above 30 degrees. So, so going through the list here, we get what we call the main ID of the object, its constellation name, the RA and deck, its rise time, transit time, maximum altitude, and set time. So I'm probably going to add a column that says available imaging time. So this looks like, it's about 45 minutes. So, I don't know if you're going to want to image it or not, but the owner is NOIC. So that means that these are images we've collected. Okay. Over here to the right, we have three options. I'm going to resort this by, I'm just going to do this. We have a drop down. We can search because we filter on just about everything. These are all the constellations that we have in the list. So for example, this will give us a list of Aruga. There's 185 images or objects in the list. And I am I'll just sort on name. Okay. And then for our purposes here, I will say IC 434, which is the Horset. It's not in a Ruga, of course, it's in. So we have, this specific image, or, if we're interested in ICs, it'll return any column that has an IC in it. We're going to make this feature more powerful. And eventually, this will just bring it, by having this radio button here click, this will bring up only images that you have created. I'm sorry, objects that you've created, and we're going to get to that in just a moment. So here we list the details. This is a thumbnail image from Telescopius. This is a graph of its travel time overnight, what time it rises, what time it transits, and what time it's going to set, and its maximum altitude and what time. And we're going to add more details. It also will list the catalog identifiers that this is in, and I've got some cleanup here. This is IC434 is in the international catalog.
And the rise and set time is the rise and set above and then below 30 degrees, and you can reset that, right?
Yeah. So, and then the object types. and alternative names. Now there's only one here for this guy. And then this probably isn't going to stay here. It probably will be a menu option, but you'll be able to set your exposure time, which will be a drop down, number of exposures, um, going back and forth on binning. Gain, you'll get an option of 0 or 100. Clearly, we're not going to have any filters on a color camera, and you won't have offset. And this will be used to calculate how the image is going to be generated. So, for example, right now, 180-second images is going to yield you an hour of imaging time. So if we were to change this to like 50, it's 2.5 hours. But the key thing that we spent a lot of time on is, I don't like the way this looks, so I might want to change it, right? And this image doesn't match the framing, the field of view that's on the Raza. So if we go to the framing wizard, it's collecting the image. And what is going on here? Let me make sure I don't have debugging turned on. I don't think I do. I do. Okay, so this goes out to Sinbad to get some data for us. And the image. And if you're familiar with Nina, this image, it's HIPS data. It's actually the same data that Nina uses. So there are a couple of things here. This is the image scale, 3.38 by 2.24. That is the field of view of the 2600 that's on the Raza. So now, just for the sake of argument here, so we have our decimal degrees, and we also have our the normal, what I call the normal degrees. And this tells us where your mouse is, RA and deckwise in the image. And so I'm looking at this image, and I want to get more of the nebulosity or whatever reason. So I'm going to move the image, and I'm going to bring it down. Okay. So now I want to save this. So I click save. I give it a name. I'm going to call it and I'm going to tell it to save. And let me tag, yeah. And it captures the image, and it's redirecting. So now here's our detail, and notice that our the image changed. So now this particular key space object is created by me, so it's not a noble object. You won't be able to save over a noble object. So when you're ready to schedule stuff, you'll create your own object. Okay. So now just to prove up, well, I really don't like this. So I'm going to go back to the framing wizard. And I'm going to move this like this. Actually, I'll just move it over here and click save. Now, if I try to save it, it's going to come back and tell me that I can't save it because it already exists. So I just click View Overwrite. Image captured. It's doing some stuff. It's going to redirect us back to here, and notice that the image moved. And if we're watching carefully, we'd see that the RA and deck moved. So at this point in time, the next step would be to fill out how you want to do your imaging, and then click on, there'll be some buttons down here that'll say schedule, which will allow you to schedule your image date. So, but this is where we are here. So if I go back to details, back to the list, and I say, it brings up my list. One thing I haven't done yet is I do want to change the thumbnail to be the same image as, you see in the details. So I'm concerned about flow, look and feel, and in particular the operation of the framing wizard. So I'll open the floor. Any questions, any comments?
Hey, Bob. I'm really thrilled to see this. This is awesome. Um, so, gosh, I can imagine you using this maybe with something like the Seti Astro Street live stacking program, like Chris
I'm
was
I'm
mentioning
looking at
earlier.
how to do some live stacking. I'm not um, yeah, I don't know. I'll admit I am partial to SharpCat because I use it for other things. It's a powerful tool.
Right.
But I do want to look at Seti Astro. What I really wanted, there's two things I want to do. I want to see if there's a way, um, if we can have Seti Astro automatically stack images.
Hmm.
And I'm really intrigued with the live stacking, where one of the things uh, where I see this being really powerful is when we go out to do outreach, and let's say we're in a school or we're at Cook Children's or whatever. Hey, what would you like to see? I want to see Andromeda. Okay. And I don't think M31's in here, so, but I don't think it's in here. No, let's pick another one. Well,
I thought it was there, but it didn't have a space. It just had M31. Don't put a
no,
space between the M.
pardon?
Don't put a space between the M and the 3. It first kicked
I'm
up
actually going to fix that,
Oh,
where it
okay.
won't matter. So,
Because it showed up when you first typed M.
oh, M31 is in here. So it maybe Andromeda might be, but I mean, that's not quite the point of this at the moment. So,
Okay, well, I was just saying if you type in M, the first thing that shows up there was M31. Just type the
nope.
letter M. See it in your drop down?
Nope. M42, M1.
Where
Yeah.
you typed, yeah. It may be a anomaly, but look right there underneath your box. It says M31. Just type the
This
M
says
box in,
example M31 Andromeda NGC.
because if you just type in the M though, it shows a bunch of things in your right there. See that?
Yeah,
M31.
but that's the way my browser works.
Okay, that's your history. Okay, that's not
Yeah.
generated by the
And
website then.
yeah, it's not in the detail list. So anyway, getting back to M1. Okay, so we bring up M1. We couldn't image this because it's too bloody small, but uh, we're someplace and someone wants to image it, and when we're doing outreach, there'll be a button that says "Take instant image," and we'll take 10 minutes worth of data and stack it somehow and be able to produce an image and send it to them. So anyway, so that's not for now, but that the potential for this is becoming more and more interesting as we do more and more work on this. The other thing I am going to put up here in this graph is the moon, where it is, similar to how Telescopius works. So anyway, so that's where we are. The next step is to do this, the scheduling part. The first part of that is going to be taking the selected data, the selected object with the image information and inject it into Nina. Then the next step after that is going to be the web page to actually do the scheduling. So I don't know if we yeah, I don't have it here right handy. So any thoughts on what you've seen so far? Because I'm trying to not go too much longer here unless there are lots of questions.
Bob, once someone schedules images and takes them, how are they going to be stored or transferred?
You will, at the end of the day, you will get you'll get an email that will give you a link that you'll be able to download your data. So the way the process is, when your image session starts, we start transferring the files right away. And we have found that we can do almost 10 gigabytes of data from Rising Star to our storage locations here, either at my house or at Peter's house. And the data is there by the end of the session. So once the data is accumulated, then we will zip it up. And the data will contain the FITS files, calibration data, some statistical information. And if we can stack some stuff, we'll stack it. And you get a zip file, you get a link to it. And Peter and I have very high speed links in our homes. And you'll be able to download your data. Jim, what was you pulled down 12 gigabytes in how long? What, about 15 minutes?
Yeah, I think it was actually less because we did that a couple of times.
Yeah.
It was getting down to like 5 minutes.
So
It was going way faster than a 90-second exposure.
yeah. So it won't take long to get your data. And once you get your data, you just unzip it. operates, I don't know if people have used iTelescope or some of these other remote sites. So that's the mechanism they do. You get a zip file, and I and the compression size is pretty phenomenal when we zip them up, and it'll take you a bit of time to unzip them, but the data will be the way the process will work is Jim, uh, you do your image, you get your email, and you got 48 hours from that time to pull the data down, do with it what you want, and after the 48-hour window, then it gets released to the club. So you get a couple of days to work on the data before anybody else does. And you'll get if I go back to home, so there'll be a button here that says show me all the files, and then from there you'll be able to download them directly. So and I've started on the weather thing. So this is my first stab at this. My idea is to have this showing over here, always available. So those folks that have seen what gets presented by our weather station, this will look familiar. So, but anyway, so that's where we're at. I think the next evolution will be in a couple of weeks where we're able to schedule, where people will be able to sign on and schedule. Registration is very easy. When you register, you need 3 pieces. You need information. You need to know your Night Sky Network user ID for the club. You need to know your Night Sky Network email, your primary one, and your Night Sky Network phone number. And we use that to verify whether or not you can register. And if you can't, you'll get a message here. And if you can, you'll get an email that asks you to verify the information and that kind of jazz. And you have to set your password. And then once you're registered, you can log in. And so and you can tick remember me, which, I don't have to log in anymore. And there will be password rules. They'll be minimal, but they will be in play. So anyway, so that's where we're. I think we made a lot of progress in the last couple of weeks. So I'm hoping in a couple more weeks' time we'll actually be able to start using it. So any questions, thoughts, comments, concerns?
Great job.
Looks great, Bob.
Great job.
Yeah, I agree. Well done.
So it's been interesting. So anyway, so that's all I had, except for I'm really excited to announce that 1687 signed the memorandum of understanding over the weekend. And today, Tuesday, 48 hours later, we got a phone call, and we'll be out there on the 22nd for our first one of the year. So that's really cool stuff. Anyway, that's all I had. I really appreciate everybody staying late.
What date was that, Bob?
Thursday, the 22nd.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, yeah, we've already Bruce, I, myself, and Ben Hodgins. There's only going to be 11 people. It's going to be the staff from the epilepsy group that was out there last summer. They asked, they're out there for a retreat, and they asked Sarah if we could come out. So, which tells me that when they're out there in the summer, they'll have us come out again too. So, anyway.
Thank you for doing that, Bob. Great job.
Yeah. So anyway, and so Stephen, there's for you, and I don't need an answer anytime soon, but we use Telescopius, we use Aladdin, and if you noticed in the Aladdin image, it's already branded. So, but I want to make sure that we're using open source material from those folks. I want to make sure that we are not in violation.
Correct. If it is open source, we're good. And I'm nearly certain it is, but I'll talk to you offline as we continue to get closer to finalization to confirm that.
Yeah, no, it is. The APIs are open. So, anywho, I want to thank everybody for hanging back. I know it's been a long, very interesting meeting for on Seti Astro stuff. So,
All right. Thank you, Bob. Anybody have any questions or anything else for Bob before?
I have one other thing.
Oh,
We're
okay.
coming up on the new moon in 2 weeks' time, and we need to start thinking about group projects. I'd like to do Thor's helmet, not necessarily in the Raza, but I'd like to suggest Thor's helmet. So, but we need to start planning that so we can get started.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Bob. Thor's helmet is that's a great idea for a target. So we'll give that some thought, and maybe in the next couple of weeks we'll finalize that because we do have the we do have the new moon coming up. Anyway, all right, it's about 9:35. Any final important questions for Bob? Otherwise, I see a lot of sleepy people, including me. So thank you all very much for attending tonight's special meeting, and we will see you at the next club meeting very soon.
That's right. 20th.
All right. Thank
Thank
you
you,
all.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Night.
See you.